Okay, while she's doing that, I can introduce myself. I am Dessa, she, her pronouns. I'm part of the Maplewood Richmond Heights pod called Maple Good, and I'm feeling silvery today. So just, I think we can go over some housekeeping things for those of you who don't know. We do have Spanish interpretation. Thank you to, I believe it's Elena. If anybody needs it, they can let us know. I think right now we're good, but in case anybody signs on and then needs Spanish interpretation, we can do that. We have auto captioning. So if we can all speak slowly, I will also try to speak slowly, but it's through a service called Rev. So on the bottom of your screen, you should probably be able to see a closed captioning button, and then you can turn that on so that we can have that. If you want to rename yourself, and you can add your name and pronouns if you want to, you would click on your picture. There's mute and video buttons that you can use, and then we'll also be using the chat throughout, so you can chat to everybody or chat privately to one person. Julia's on tech support, so you can message her if you need support with that. And racism, homophobia, or any other type of hateful statements or harassment will not be tolerated. So anyone attempting to do so will be removed from the session. As Julia said, we're recording this session, and notes will be taken in the link that Sro's just shared, so you guys can click on that. I might have to move myself because there's somebody else in the room that's being annoying. Okay, so the agenda we have for today is reviewing some of the things that we've discussed previously in some of the other sessions, and then coming together and really digging deep into the pods. So the first thing that I wanted to do, because I know not everybody was able to make all of the sessions, was talk a little bit about the session on organizing that was on Thursday. And for those of you who weren't on it, I can go over some points that I took away from it, and then anybody else can kind of add what they took away from it as well. We're also going to be reviewing some of the values of mutual aid before we go into a visualizing activity, and then some group work on some questions that we wanted to kind of dig deep into. Is my internet connection okay? Okay, great. So the first thing was reviewing the organizing session. There were some speakers, myself and Erica, as well as Mama Cats, that talked a little bit about the organizing that we're involved in, and then how it relates to mutual aid. So really talking about the mutuality of organizing in and of itself, and how there's a great appreciation within organizing for mutual aid, and that includes the building relationships. So it's beyond just transactional, but it's more about the relationships that are being built through the organizing that's being done, and it sets that foundation for the organizing work. The fact that this work can lead to systemic change, and that through mutual aid, we have this network where we're able to organize easier through the mutual aid network. Anybody else who was present during that session on Thursday, do you want to add anything that you were able to take away from Thursday's session?
Yeah, this is Erica. Oh, you can see me. I turned my thing on. But I will say that in addition to the things that we spoke about with Leah on that session, was the focus on intersectionality and the intentionality of not just doing the one thing, like, meeting needs with groceries and things of that nature, but looking to see how the other areas of life are impacted and how we can use mutual aid to help those areas. there was someone on there who spoke about sex work and other things like that. And then the other thing that I took away from it was the importance of trust and building community, and not just, you know, doing the work itself, but actually beginning to get to know people, know the people in your neighborhood, in your community, know the people in mutual aid, so that you can begin to grow and trust and really build on the foundation from where this started. So those are my takeaways, in addition to yours, Dessa.
Thank you, Erica. Anybody else have any takeaways from Thursday?
I really like what both of you shared, and I think just connecting the two things is my kind of takeaway was like mutual aid is like the first step in building trust with people, so that whenever we get to the things that we really want, you know, it's like we're all just trying to survive right now, and we're all just trying to help each other survive, but we want more than that. You know, we want to be able to actually have communities where we're happy and healthy, right? So like, how can we take steps together? And I think mutual aid is like the first step where we can build the trust and build the relationships. And some of the next steps are like, how do we organize and how do we like actually address? So some of what we've been talking about today is like organizing around housing or politics, or, you know, all getting healthy food in the community, like what Erica's doing. Like those are all sort of next level things that you really can't do if you don't have the trust of the community. So
another thing that I took away from it is organizing independently like we're doing, but how we come back together collectively in a unified fashion. How do we show that we are STL Mutual Aid in its totality? How do we pull up to each other and support each other in the gap? Like, I'm really looking at Miss Erica and send her a private message trying to figure out, is that the one who I went out to her pod? Like, we have to start connecting these dots, because if we're going to tear down red line districts and rebuild community, we have to do it in a real way where we show everybody this is what community looks like. It starts with us.
Absolutely. And I was going to say also, this is building the foundation, because like we're talking now about the pods. However, there are groups that are doing food boxes, and groups that are doing moving things and things of that nature. Everyone can't do it themselves, but when you bring your best selves to the table, bring your strengths, bring what you have, and join it with others, you actually can begin to make stuff happen and make stuff grow. So that's what I love about it.
Yeah, thank you so much. So many great takeaways. Does anybody else have any final thoughts about that session? Okay, the next activity I wanted to do was to kind of ground ourselves, thinking about what is mutual aid. And we had a session talking about values, and I wanted to kind of refresh all of our memory before we move into what we think pods should be, by thinking about what are the values of mutual aid. So again, I'm not going to assume everybody was in that session, but if we can just like think a little bit about what is mutual aid and what the values are, and then we can popcorn around to each other. And if you just have one or two things that you think are values, you can, if somebody else said it, it's okay to say it again. If you need time to think about it, you can pass, but I will start. So I'll say one or two values of mutual aid, and I will say inclusivity and cooperation. And I will pass to Julia, if you are willing to go.
there were so many words, now I can't think of any. But the one that comes to mind, since I saw that Sandy had joined us today, was about really decolonizing. And so kind of coming back to old practices or traditional practices in our communities, and honoring those instead of like, you know, white supremacy. So, but I'll pass it to Sandy.
Thanks a lot, Julia. So I'm going to add in that respect would be a good foundation, and that when we respect each other, we're listening to each other, we are honoring everything from our pronouns to the differences in our economic situations and education. Without respect, we can't do this. So I'm going with respect. And then as far as who do I pass it to, I'm going to go with Elena, if you would, Elena.
Yes. Hello, everyone. Well, I'm just gonna start, like the values. I just want to say, after I was hearing Thursdays, all the information that I was getting, I just want to start saying thank you to all these people to build this, because if it wasn't for them, this is not gonna happen. So thank you for all of you, what you're doing, and you're right, respect, and that's the more important, and that's I just want to say just what you said, and I agree with you. Yes, that's what we need. Yes, exactly. That's what we need. So I just want to say thank you again. Thank you for everybody. I mean, for doing this, and we just need to give love to everybody. Just love, respect, communication. That's what we need. I don't know who's next on the list, so I can pass it on.
Does somebody want to volunteer to go next?
I'll jump in. Relationships. And I'll pass it to Carmen.
Right after I snapped. Okay, yeah, relationships. I think what's sticking out for me since being in this space is love and dedication. Love and real dedication. So those are my 2 words. And I'm going to pass it to, I want to say this name so I say it right. Zandi. Am I saying it right? Zandi?
Yeah, Zondi's right. Thanks. So I also want to echo relationships, like knowing your neighbors, whether they live next to you or 15 miles from you, and also like building power through those relationships. And I will pass to Diana.
Thank you, Zondi. Yes, relationships and gratitude. Not, I think pods where there's gratitude and not a sense of entitlement, or I think that's important. Respect, service, pods that are full of caring and love. Elena, you said love, and collaboration. Respect and collaborating together. When I was a kid, it was like, do it yourself, you can do it. And unlearning that and learning collaboration with my neighbors, and yeah, and getting my hands dirty in the garden together. So thank you. And I pass it to, is it Sarah Rose?
Can I pause right here? I'm gonna ask si alguien necesita interpretación, podemos hacerlo. Entonces, si
Sí.
¿sí?
Si alguien necesita interpretación en español, yo aquí estoy para ayudarlos. Yo puedo traducir para ustedes.
Pero tiene que avisarnos. Para que
Pero
todos...
nos avisa para que nosotros podamos ayudar.
Gracias.
De nada.
Okay, we can keep going. Go ahead.
No worries. My name is Rose. I use she, her pronouns. And I was going to say something that I really liked from Friday's call, which was interdependence. So not that there's any hierarchy to it and saying that we all give and get things and then that's valuable. And then the other two, mutuality and trust.
Do you want to pick someone?
I was trying to write down everything I just said. Yes. I will pass it to Danielle.
There's been a lot of good words thrown out there. So the one I was thinking of is care, care for others and also care for self, I think is a big part of it as well. So I'm going to stick to that word. And John, have you gone?
I have not.
Okay.
So I'm going to say for me, it's the community and the way to build power in that community is what matters to me.
Do you want to pass it to someone, John?
Who hasn't gone yet? Anahi, I guess that's the name I see at the top.
I really want to use Julia's word again, like decolonize. I think that's a super powerful word, and just, yeah, unlearning, like Diana said, all the structural and systemic things that, you know, a toxic society has built. So yeah. I think Madeline hasn't gone.
Yeah, I haven't gone. I guess what I'm thinking about is honesty and also vulnerability, like being honest and with yourself and with others about what you need and what you can offer. And I think that requires a lot of vulnerability, just being like, to be honest with yourself and with others. That's important. Hope that makes sense. Is there anyone who hasn't gone? Maybe Lou?
I think Lou hasn't gone yet.
Yeah, Carolina.
Yeah, hi. I think, here, I'll do my video note too. Maybe vulnerability is a good one too. I think I am just now getting over being like nervous in these spaces, but Mutual Aid has been so like welcoming and warm and open that even when I'm on a call with a bunch of like badass experienced organizers feeling like I have no idea what any of like what to do with myself, I still feel really welcomed and included, which has been really, really nice, and it allows space for vulnerability. And am I the last one, Dessa? No.
I can go too.
Kaya, yes, please.
Okay. Yeah, I love all of these words, and I love the relationships between all of these words. I feel like they all support each other. So great. I think going back to listening, respect and listening, I think a lot about accountability and responsiveness. So I guess responsiveness and accountability in terms of building trust and building relationships. And has Carolina gone?
Hola, yo voy a necesitar ayuda.
Sí vas a necesitar.
Sí.
Tú dices y yo ahorita te voy a ayudar, Carolina. Carolina, tenemos que pedir primero que vas a necesitar ayuda.
Okay.
So I just started it, so I just want to make sure that Elena can use it.
Okay, I haven't gone yet, and I'm gonna go real quick and then both go back to mute, because this is a weird angle. I'm sitting here knitting. I want to say growth and potential, because I want to continue to build on what we started this year. You know, I've said it a couple of times before, but we had to slap this program together super fast to begin to meet needs right away. And I'm so grateful that we were able to do this. But now I just want to see the growth and the potential, because we are some powerful people on this, call in this network. And so we can begin to make some stuff happen and change the dynamic. Because I've only been in the nonprofit industry now for a little bit over 3 years. And I did not realize how whitewashed it was. So going back to Julia's term with decolonization and ending the white supremacy in this space is so important, because that's the only way that our community is going to be able to thrive, is if we can drive the change that we need to see from the people in the community.
Thanks, Erica. I think we'll pause and make sure that the translation is set up. But Julia, you set it up. Is Elena automatically?
Yeah, so she's the interpreter, which means she's in the other channel and she can hear us, but we can't hear her.
Okay.
So we just need to get Carolina into that channel.
Carolina, tienes que como entrar la otra parte para interpretación. Entonces, si estás en tu teléfono, hay un botón por abajo que dice más. Y si puedes prestar este botón, y hay una opción que dice interpretación. Y con eso, Elena puede traducir en tiempo contigo. ¿Me entiendes?
Sí, ya le puse ahí que dice español, pero
Sí, y puedes...
ya lo hice. Tengo que poner español.
Okay, y Elena, tú puedes, you can speak, and only Carolina will hear you. So we're good?
Sí.
Okay.
Yo vengo entrando aquí, entonces quería saber qué es lo que están diciendo ahorita.
¿Otra vez? No me escucho bien. Okay.
Maybe...
Is it working now, Elena? Can you give me the thumbs up if you...
I don't know if she can hear. As long as Carolina can hear Elena, then I think we'll be okay.
Okay. I think we're good. Carolina, si necesitas algo, me dices.
Okay.
Okay, is there anybody else who hasn't gone talking about shouting out a value of mutual aid that wants to go?
Hi, this is Anna, she, her, and I really just would echo, the thing that came to mind was trust, love, collectivity, just the power building. I'm really like all of the words, all of it was relationships. Those are the things that came to me.
The next activity is going to be individual, and we're going to do a visualization, and I'm stealing this from Julia because I really enjoyed when she did it. I think it was yesterday. But I want everybody to get like a piece of paper and a pen, and I want you to put some thought into, if you had the perfect pod, what would it look like? So I wanted everybody to take 5 minutes and really think about, for you, what would the perfect pod look like? And you can talk about it structurally, you can talk about the relationships you would have, the services you would be receiving and getting, however you want to look at it. But I really want people to, after thinking about what the values of mutual aid are and kind of having those set in, then think about, if you had the perfect pod, what would it look like? And we'll give you 5 minutes on your own to really think about it. And then we will have people report back if they would like to share in 5 minutes.
Okay. Okay. Y de eso como no entiendo muy bien esa pregunta que van a hacer. Ajá, ok, ok. Okay.
So we have 1 minute left.
Okay. Sí. Ayudarme a entender un poco más lo que están hablando, lo que vayan a hablar.
Okay, are we good on time? Do we need more time? I think just to make sure that we end on time, we can share out. And if you guys want to continue to think about this, maybe this is an activity that you can do this evening, the glass of wine, think about your perfect pod. Who would like to share what their perfect pod looks like?
I can get started. So I thought a lot about like the concept of ownership and just the idea of people owning things together, as opposed to the current situation where like landlords are exploiting people or businesses are exploiting people. And so, you know, businesses where we receive our essential things that we need, like grocery stores, or you know, even like I'm thinking about Utopia in my community. And like land and education and food, all of those things, and even just the way that we make decisions are all collective, you know, so no individual has power to exploit anyone else. That was a big thing. And then generally, like just thinking about people investing their time and energy into the things that they want to learn and they want to do. So like, you know, Erica could just sit and knit all day if she wanted to, or like, you know, like we could all like focus on learning new languages and cultures and ideas and whatever skills and practices that we all want to learn and teach each other. That's like a big part of our community. So.
Who else would like to share?
I'll try it. I'll try it. So I'm a visual person. So I made a pod. Okay. And literally my pod, my perfect pod, is on a vine that connects to everybody else's pods. Okay. So basically it says the perfect pod is our group. And we have support for food, education, jobs, health, mental health, and physical. We have gatherings, we have food, drum ceremonies, we honor our elders and children and our caretakers and our activists, and we give each other love and respect, and we have activities with the pods. That's what I had.
That's beautiful. Thank you, Sandy.
Oh, and the asterisk is that my pod is representing the Native American community. So some of them are specific for that, but that's my pod idea. Done.
My pod will do something like what Miss Sandy's did, and it will take care of what I call the whole community. It will provide food, real tangible resources, and it will also address the housing crisis and what we just got done talking about as it applies to evictions. It will close the gap and hopefully eliminate the need to have all of these doggone landlords and empower people to become homeowners and hit areas that's hardest hit, like Penrose Park where I live. So the beginning stages of that, I started with St. Louis Mutual Aid by building an LLC as of yesterday. And now I'm just going to take that a step further to see how I can get out here and get food, and then how I can stand in solidarity in my own community and hope that people, you know, will be willing to invest some of their time and resources in this community. So that's what it looks like for me, crossing over and coming into the hardest hit areas and pulling up.
Thank you for sharing. Is there maybe one or two more people that want to share?
One idea that is not in any way mine, but I'm borrowing from a different person that I learned it from, named Rachel Ibrahim, is about pods of accountability. And this can be relationship transformation, conflict transformation, or elders who look after younger folks, or sort of just like neighborhood-based community groups to where there is accountability and trust and safety amongst and within that group.
Erica shared that we would provide money for young people to work.
Do we have one more person?
One thing I wrote down, oh, go ahead, Lou.
That's okay. Go, Katie.
One thing I wrote down was neighbors, knowing neighbors, and
Cosa, creo que me voy a salir porque mi teléfono ya solo tiene 2 de carga, no me va a durar mucho y no estoy en mi casa. Sí, porque se me va a apagar mi teléfono. Sí, por cualquier cosa se desconecta.
Okay, I think you can go, Katie.
one thing I wrote down was people, no one being left out because they don't know a resource is available. Not letting access to information that's already there be a barrier.
Lou, did you want to say something?
Yeah, I love this exercise, and it's really been fun this weekend to have multiple opportunities to imagine this kind of like perfect future. And I'm like so like antsy for it to happen now. I like want it now because it looks so nice. But I think like just to echo what a lot of people have been saying, just like having the freedom to do what like to fill each day with something that's fulfilling for you, and each day can look a little bit different, and it doesn't have to be about like accumulation of wealth because your needs are taken care of in other ways. Like you could do really creative alternatives to like what your work might normally look like, because you could have your childcare be taken care of like with a sort of cooperative model, and you could have your food be grown by people who love to grow food, and you can share cooking responsibilities with other people who love cooking. And this kind of like it's really exciting to think about like none of those sort of restrictions would apply to how we would then have to conduct our days. And then we could be like creative and artistic, and our work could be what brought us joy, which is pretty contrary to how I feel now.
Thank you for sharing. That's great. So now we have some questions. So Julia sent over some questions about that we've had like over the past couple months when talking about pods, and some of maybe the challenges that we've had or things that we wanted to work out. So I was thinking if we have time, we would have 2 sessions where we break up into 3 groups for each session to tackle one of those questions. I don't think there's enough time to go through each and all of us together. So the first session, I have 3 questions written out, and if we could each choose one question that we wanted to talk about, and then we'll be put in groups depending on which question we want to talk about. And hopefully there's enough people in each group. I can go in whichever group doesn't have enough people, or hopefully it's pretty spread out. But the questions, so for this session, the first question is what are pods and what should they be doing? The second one is how to ensure things are mutual and not giver/receiver, and to come up with some ideas. And then the third question is how do anti-racism, anti-capitalism, and anti-colonialism figure into organizing and coordinating pods? So if everybody could in the chat maybe write which number.
Yeah, just put a 1, 2, or 3.
And then Julia can put us into breakout groups, and we'll give, I think we can only do 10 minutes to discuss. And then if you can assign one person to report back at the end, that would be great.
Actually, instead of doing in the chat, let's just do it by shouting it out. So start with one. Who wants to go in one?
Sandy, I'll go in one.
Okay, cool. We got Sandy. We got, who else?
Jessa.
Katie.
Jessa.
I can go in that one too.
Who was that?
Zondi.
Sandy. Sandy and Sandy.
I can go in one. That's Anna.
Cool. All right. So that's, is there one more person who wants to go in that one?
Yeah, Lou.
Cool.
Thank you.
All right. And then anyone else, we can still add you in. Okay, 2.
2 is how to ensure things are mutual, not giver/receiver.
I'll go in 2, Katie.
Katie.
Carmen.
Carmen.
Yeah,
John.
Diana.
John and Diana.
Yeah.
Okay, and Madeline. All right, last call for 2. And then I'll assign the rest of the folks in 3 unless you want to change. All right. And we said 10 minutes. Okay, I'm breaking you out now.
I think it cut me off.
Yeah, Anna, where you're currently in Shrewsbury, but moving where?
I think it's Benton Park.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. So then that'll be like in real soon, real soon.
Yeah, let's talk about that.
So the funny thing, Anna, is that with our group, we have people all the way in Puerto Rico in our group, and they don't get assistance, but they also have relationships. So basically, it's family. So your family could literally be a pod.
Oh, I love that. Thanks for sharing. Thanks for putting that in context. Thanks, Sandy.
All right, I think everybody's back. So to share out, how about we start with group 3? If you just want to kind of summarize what you talked about. Group 3's question was, how do anti-racism, anti-capitalism, and anti-colonialism figure into organizing and coordinating pods?
So I said I would speak out for group 3. Really easy topic to take on in 10 minutes, but some of the ideas that we put out there were opportunities to learn and talk about what the isms are, so we have a better understanding of how they show up, not just broadly, but within ourselves, how they might show up in mutual aid. To then the next part is calling it out when we see racism and capitalism and colonialism making their way into what we're doing. And I think mutual aid has so far been really great about saying it when it is happening, and it might not in the moment be solved or figured out, but at least it's speaking into existence that the example I gave is on the last couple pod weekly meetings, it's been all white people, and we've been very blunt and open about the fact that it's been all white people. And so we didn't solve that, but I think that one of the important things, and we discussed as a group, is to be able to call it out so that then you are working to figure out how to address it, like bringing up questions like this in the pod conversation. So and then so those were kind of the big things: learning, calling it out, and that is in all aspects. So not just in pod leaders, but we talked about like where resources are coming from and ensuring that we're not feeding into the systems and continuing the systems that exist. And so that's where we started for the first 10 minutes of that conversation.
Thank you. Okay, group number 2, how to ensure things are mutual and not giver/receiver.
I think where we ended up on that was our discussion trended a lot towards how do we teach people to be involved, and that would allow it to be a more mutual relationship, kind of a teaching people to fish type of situation.
I think one thing that came up was kind of the system right now where I believe I understood Carmen correctly, that she has to drive a long, like 20 or 30 minutes to go get food to then bring back to her own neighborhood. It's kind of like, well, could those resources just come from where she lives initially? But how do we do that? How do we learn how to source food like the operations team does right now in our own areas, and then get people involved so that like the aid is truly coming from that neighborhood and then going to that neighborhood by those community members. I'm not sure that really makes sense, but yeah.
Great. And then group 1, what are pods and what should they be doing?
So we were talking about the fact that our pods are a very simple concept. And Lou was saying it's very simple, but that people want to make it a big thing. And why don't you just join this with your group? And we were saying that this very simple concept is really confusing to others. So getting people to see that we're talking about a concept where we're inclusive, we're not an organization, we're not a bureaucracy, and reframing that to the simple, easy, we're a group that has a concept of supporting ourselves and others. An example would be, you know, if someone starts a business or land resources, and they give beta to the other pods so that they can also feed into being successful. So the concept of pods, my example was that it's a plant and that we're all from the root of solidarity in St. Louis Mutual Aid, but that we're all going to be very different. A pod can be as small as a family and as big as it wants, but that there's not a size, there's not a bureaucracy that we have to follow. The big thing is that we support each other and take care of each other, and then be accountable to that. So that's what group 1 was talking about. Did I catch it all?
Yeah, that was great, Sandy.
Memory.
I just wanted to read Diana's comment here in the chat. She says, we all know a few folks who are open to hearing and curious about race, anti-racism, capitalism, and that's who we begin to share broadly, invite into mutual aid, teach/reach one or a few folks. We have to go beyond calling out and go out and see how to teach our skills where we're asked. So thank you for that comment. That's great. Okay, so for the next session, we'll be doing something similar, but there's 3 different questions. So these questions, question number 1 is, how do pods relate to other mutual aid work? For example, operations, financial solidarity, hotline, Spanish pod, etc. And feel free if you would like to draw something to show the rest of the group. Number 2, how to improve communication among different areas of work. So thinking about those other kind of sectors of mutual aid, the operations, financial solidarity, and how to improve communication. And then number 3 is centralized versus decentralized leadership and the strengths and challenges and what that looks like in St. Louis Mutual Aid. So if you guys want to do the same, where you can call out, and then Julia will put us all into groups or breakout sessions.
Cool. Who wants to be in group 1?
I'll be in 1. This is Anna.
Okay.
I'll be in 1, Annie.
Alrighty, Anaí,
I can do 1 as well.
Madeline. All right, anyone else for that group? Cool. Let's move on to the next one, number 2. Improving communication.
I'll join that group. Carmen.
Carmen.
John.
John.
Sandy.
Sandy.
Rose.
And Rose. Anyone else? All right, cool. Group 3 is going to be quite large and decentralized.
Right. Hopefully my phone doesn't cut off this time. It cut off last checkout, check-in.
Okay, do you want to
You
do 10
can
minutes?
put me in 1, Julia.
Do that, Danielle? Okay, let me do that. I'll go in 1 too. All right, and then another 10 minutes, Tessa?
Yes.
All right, okay. Sorry, you got cut off, Danielle.
It's fine. It's Zoom protocol.
All right, so it is 4:59. We're supposed to end at 5. So if you have to jump off, please do so. I think we can share out from this session and then say goodbye for the day. So the first group looked at how do pods relate to other mutual aid work. You guys want to share out?
We didn't assign anyone. I have some notes so I can try and summarize really quickly. But basically, we kind of summarized what had been happening in other sessions because everybody had been going to different sessions. So we talked about the operations call. We talked about the strategy values call where we looked a little bit at a possible structure for mutual aid. And Madeline shared like some of her experience about being part of a pod that did come together through mutual aid and was just focused on like meeting needs and how that didn't really give space for people to build relationships. And so wanting something different and, looking forward to trying other ways of doing things. So we kind of just caught everybody up. And then, and then Anna was just making a note about that it is hard to do stuff virtually. And so like building community, we have to be really creative about, being able to build relationships in the process. Is there anything I missed? There's a lot of I missed, but.
Okay, group 2, how to improve communication among different areas of work.
I can share out a bit and then folks will fill in what I've missed or missaid. So we talked about how right now there are a lot of ways that we communicate, but none of them are working great. That there's a bunch of apps and that there's etc. But like actually having a conversation, be it on the phone, using a phone tree or building relationships is the way that we're probably gonna get better at this rather than trying to find a tech fix for any of that. And we talked about that the group as a whole holds so much information and it really is like our job to figure out how to put that information out and put that support out and put that connection out in ways that people can access and like take in both amongst ourselves and to folks outside of mutual aid networks. And then, I think there's something else, but I'm not totally sure how to, if other folks want to fill in the stuff that I've missed, that would be really appreciated.
Well, one of the things that I really liked hearing was that Carmen was saying that, and hopefully I get this right, that we really need to strip down the structure of what we're doing. And that it seems like even though we don't have a corporate structure, that we do. And that got me thinking about the challenge of trying to get that decolonized part out of there. But it is viewed by a lot of us as having a corporate, our communication and our system is maybe looked at in one way and we haven't moved out of it. And then the big thing was not only do we have challenges within our groups communicating, but between the pods and forming relationships and mutually helping from one pod to another. If language is a barrier, having Wi-Fi is a barrier. So some of our crises aren't just food crisis and eviction, but they're very systemic with some other things. That's what I want to add to it.
Thank you for that. All right, and then group 3, centralized versus decentralized leadership.
Yeah, so we talked a little bit about dynamic leadership and how to make that go. Kaya brought up accumulating leadership and getting people confident and capable stepping into those roles, as we've sort of done in Dutchtown. And then Lou brought up a great point, which is places that we inadvertently centralize something. For example, access to technology like Airtable might, accidentally centralize something that we're trying to decentralize. And Erica gave us some great examples of how they are taking information from Airtable and sharing that with other people. And then there was a little invitation to visit Red Circle, and really a moment of taking stock of how important it is for pods and different groups to learn from each other, because how we decentralize is going to look different depending on the group, and we might have great ideas that we're not learning about unless we choose to come together and share. And the last point I brought up was decentralizing how we our physical goods. Like if everything's at Kendra's house, then she's default in charge of all the stuff, and how actually centralizing or decentralizing physical goods and access to physical goods actually does look like centralizing into a nonprofit, because if it's moved to a location where more people have access, we can actually get more people involved with leadership.
Great, thank you to everybody for all of that work that you guys did in this session, talking about pods and a lot of kind of questions and things that we've had for a while. So it's really nice to talk about it and spend some time digging in. Julia, are we going to continue with our pod meetings on Wednesdays?
I was just thinking the same thing. I think that would be a perfect place to invite people to join in and continue the conversation. So up until now, we've been doing weekly calls pretty much for the last like 6 months, but we've changed times and stuff. Right now we're doing them Wednesdays at 2. So we have one scheduled for this coming Wednesday at 2. We know that it's not really an ideal time for a lot of people as their schedules have changed. So I think what we're gonna do is go forward with this coming Wednesday at 2 o'clock, and then, or maybe we're just gonna start and try and reschedule a new time. I don't know. Like, does it make more sense to go ahead and go forward with this coming Wednesday and just invite more people to it? Or does it make sense to like just start finding a new time that's going to work for more people going forward?
I think maybe going ahead with what we have on Wednesday, and then at that meeting discussing finding a new time. And then send out information to those people who can't make it, if we have like an email list of pod people interested in pod.
Is there anyone on this call who wants to make that call but can't because of the time? Okay. So I'll make sure I have a little screenshot of everybody who came today. So we'll make sure that you get invited to that call on Wednesday, and then we'll keep working with everybody to continue those conversations.
Hey, Julia, you also might offer the recording of this, if it's being recorded, to selected people if they want to catch the information. Just
Yeah,
a
we've
thought.
been recording most of the sessions, so I was gonna put them all together and try and put them all in one place, maybe the same page on our website that had the information for this. We'll just add the recordings on there. So definitely want to make these recordings available.
I was also wondering if someone would be down to do a follow-up with both all of the follow-ups or the like next steps from all of the meetings, the recordings, and like something else to the email that the invitations got sent to, the Zoom links got sent to. I don't want to I'm not trying to sign someone else up for more work, so I can do half of it, but I do not want to do all of it.
I was planning on doing all of it, so doing half of it sounds great.
Great. Okay, the last thing I wanted to do was kind of hold Julia up and say thank you so much for organizing all of these sessions and this whole since Thursday. You put so much work into it, and we appreciate you so much.
Yeah, I want to shout out Kendra too. She actually helped to like envision the entire structure of the summit, and then we just got it going. So I'd love to keep doing these, and for anybody who's new or who wants to help, like I was really just kind of pulling it out of my ass on how to do this, and would love to improve on these so we can have more of them and keep inviting people in. So definitely think about in your head if you have ideas of how to improve the structure for future times, or if you want to be involved in organizing more of these types of gatherings. Would love your help. Danielle, it's funny.
Yes,
Cool.
and I just said sorry, and thank you, thank you. And I had a question. I'm sorry. As far as like following up, because I like this was super awesome because I could just like go on the website and like click the Zoom. I mean, super very accessible for me as someone who accesses tech, social media. I think that's even how I found it. But wondering about just like how to plug into other things, or no, should I complete the Airtable thing online? Like, what is the best route, say, for someone to get involved? I'll join the pod meeting, but also any other
Yeah.
suggestions?
I think that'll be me and Rose's job to like communicate back with the people who came, especially new people, and make sure we're plugging you in wherever that makes sense for you. So
Is there a Benton Park pod?
there have been at different times. It's been
Okay.
a little bit up
Is
and down.
that close enough to Shaw that I can just start sending
To absorb Anna? Yeah, then don't go for
Anna,
it.
if you want to pop your contact into the chat, then I might start bugging you, and you can choose what to participate in or
Let's
not.
all fight over who's gonna follow up with Anna.
Great. Well, on that note, unless anybody has anything else they want to bring up, I think we're good. I hope everybody has a great weekend. Has some rest.
Thank you all.
Yeah, hopefully we'll see you guys on Wednesday.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you so much. Bye.